All right, thank you guys for coming. I see some familiar faces and new faces, so I'm excited. Last week when I left on Tuesday, I know I went home and my heart was really full, and I love sharing fitness with other people, so thank you guys for coming. It really means a lot to me. I said last week that Tuesdays are good for me as of now, but I think next week will be like the last Tuesday I'm available, so I'll just kind of have to play by ear and let you know. My daughter and Ashley's daughter, they both do gymnastics in Romney, and I think, isn't it in August, the schedule changes? Yeah, so I don't think Tuesday will work in August, but hopefully we can find a night that does work. All right, I just wanted to give you guys, who weren't here, a little recap of what we talked about last week. So mainly I just introduced myself. I think at this point everybody knows me. My name's Tiffany. I have 2 kids, I'm married, I'm a fitness instructor. I run an online fitness business that's partnered with a company called Body, used to be called Beachbody. You've probably heard of like Insanity, P90X, those are some of their really popular programs. And I've been doing that since my daughter was like a baby, so it's been almost 9 years, because she's 9 now, which is crazy. Last week we talked about connecting your faith journey and your fitness journey. We talked about letting go of negative self-talk, because we know that we are all children of God. If that's your belief, that's my belief. And we know that He doesn't like it when we're beating ourselves up and using negative language in reference to ourselves. So I challenged everyone to try to release those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts instead, which I know is hard. I'm human, so those thoughts do come up still on a daily basis, but I'm really a lot better at refocusing them at this point in my life. We also talked a little bit about letting go of like the unrealistic beauty standards, because if you flip through a magazine or if you look at Instagram and a fitness influencer or whatever it may be, you might have these images in your head of like what a woman is supposed to look like. But we need to let that go, because we were all created by God. He wanted us to be different. We all have amazing bodies, and I think we should love them, celebrate them, appreciate them just the way they are. So that's basically what we talked about last week. And if you want to see like that full presentation, I did put it in the Facebook group, which if you're not part of that, I can add you to that later. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can connect your faith journey and your fitness journey that's not something that you're already like putting into practice every day. For me, the easiest way that I do it is like when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, well, maybe not the exact first thing I do, I probably like brush my teeth first and all that, but when I get down to my basement, like about to work out, the first thing I do is I grab my devotional and I read that with my husband. And at first he kind of scoffed at me. He's like, why don't we just do this? You know, our kid's gonna be waking up any second. Like, what are you doing? And when I explained to him, like, you know, this is like spiritual for me. I feel like this is inviting God into my workout and it's really important. Now he's like, okay, and he's cool with it. He's like, what's the Jesus calling today? So we always do that like first thing before we do our workout. Sorry, I lost my spot. I just love public speaking. It's my favorite thing in the world. I think it's also really important that we practice mindfulness and gratitude, because like I said before, God gave us these bodies, they're a gift. And I think oftentimes we can take them for granted. We can think that we need to look a certain way or be a certain size, but we fail to just appreciate ourselves in the present and just be thankful that we got out of bed today. We can move, we can exercise, we can walk, we can do all these amazing things. Our bodies are always working for us. So I think it's important to recognize that and be grateful for that. And there's nothing wrong with like setting a weight loss goal or like, oh, I'm gonna be in shape for my wedding. Like, you know, that's exactly what I did when I was, you know, back in 2011 when I was getting ready for my wedding. I was like, this is my goal and I'm gonna stick to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, that's the kind of motivation that's temporary. Because as soon as my wedding was over, that was it. I was like, I don't need to work out anymore. And I just quit for years, probably, if I'm being honest. I would kind of get back into it for a little bit and then I would quit. But it was never consistent again until I connected my faith journey and my fitness journey, because motivation is temporary, but faith is forever. So I think it's important to remember that. And another thing that I like to do is when I hit certain milestones on my fitness journey, I like to celebrate me, of course, and be proud of myself, but also give glory to God, because you know, He's the one that gave me the strength to do those push-ups or whatever it may be. But I think it's important to celebrate yourself and also to give thanks to God whenever you hit milestones. All right, we'll move on. So last week, I sent everybody some messages and just asked for feedback, and I asked if there was like anything that you're currently struggling with in your fitness journey, and some people answered me. And one of the common things that was shared was nutrition. And that's something that comes up a lot for me, like with my clients in my body business. Nutrition is such a struggle, and it's for me as well. Like, it's a lot easier for me to do a 20-minute workout every day than to be in control of every single thing I put in my mouth all day. And also, I hate cooking and I hate meal prepping, so that doesn't help either. But I think one of the biggest factors is self-awareness, because I think like the past version of me was often on autopilot. Like, I would just kind of meander throughout my day, not really giving much thought to what I was eating. Like, if I saw some cookies or chips or whatever, I'd just be like, oh great, eat that, kind of mindlessly snacking. But I've also been on the other side where I would be so busy that I would completely forget to eat. It didn't even occur to me that oh, I should probably eat today. I would get home from work and realize I hadn't eaten. So it can go in either direction. So that's why I think it's important to kind of be aware and try to talk to yourself throughout the day, try to recognize your hunger cues, things like that. One of the most helpful things you can do, even though I hate it, is food tracking. I have an app. It's actually within the Body app. There's a little category where you can track your food, which I got really, really consistent with that for a while. Christy can tell you, I was the queen of tracking my food. But this summer, I haven't really been very good at it, but it is so helpful, like just to be aware of what you're eating throughout the day. Because I couldn't believe, like, just, especially because I'm a toddler mom, so many times, like, he wouldn't finish his food, and it's like, well, here's this moment that I made this food, now I either throw it away or I eat it myself. And there was like so many times throughout the day where I was just like eating his food and his snacks. And when I started to track, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is eye-opening. So if you're not tracking your food, I would suggest starting there. It's very helpful. And meal prep, which again, I'm not the queen of meal prep. I've done it, haven't done it in a while, but it is helpful just to know what you're gonna be having for, at least for dinner. I think is really helpful if you just kind of have that planned out for the week. And a lot of people do, but lately we've just been traveling and all over the place. So our meal prep game has been weak, if I'm being honest. I also wanted to talk a little bit about emotional eating and numbing, because I know that's something that I personally have struggled with. And my guess is that I'm not the only one. You watch a movie and a girl gets dumped. What does she do? She grabs the ice cream, right? You hear a song, a person had a bad day at work. What are you gonna do? Pour me something tall and strong, right? You hear these messages constantly in music and, through the media. So they're kind of ingrained in us. And I think it must be human nature because somebody created that content, right? So I know, like, for me, it's a lot easier to numb those feelings than it is to feel those feelings. Like, if you're going in for surgery and the doctor's like, hey, we have two choices here. You can be awake and just feel everything, or I'll just, put you under and you won't feel a thing. I think everybody would say, I don't want to feel anything. Like, you would definitely sign up for that option. And I know that's physical pain, but I think emotional pain can be really hard as well. You might not feel it physically, but it still hurts and it's still hard. And as humans, we try to find ways to cope and numb. And that's where self-awareness really comes into play. You have to talk to yourself all day long, like a crazy person in your head, and just get to the root of, okay, why do I want to reach for that, the Oreos or the chips or the Cheetos or whatever it might be? Why? And ask yourself those hard questions. That's the next slide. So what kind of questions would you ask yourself? Like, am I really hungry, or am I bored or sad or stressed? Am I actually paying attention and honoring my hunger cues? Things like that. You just want to be mindful of your choices throughout the day. If you want Oreos, that's fine. If you eat the entire sleeve of Oreos or like the whole pack, is that going to make you feel better, or is that going to make you feel worse? Would it be better to just maybe enjoy one cookie and get, enjoyment out of that rather than eating a whole lot of them? Things like that. And I think there's a difference between enjoying a treat and numbing or emotional eating. And it's important that we recognize those differences. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like, there's many times where I will mindlessly just eat a bag of chips or, have a couple too many glasses of wine. Like, that still happens presently. I'm not gonna stand up here and preach and be like, oh, I'm just so perfect and I eat clean every day and never make any bad choices. No, definitely I still do, but I think being aware of my choices helps me tremendously. And also, like, if I do have a bad day and I overeat, or if I overdrink, or I binge watch too many shows on Netflix or whatever it might be, the next day I don't beat myself up about it. I recognize, like, I'm human, that was a bad day, and today's gonna be better. So I think that's another change in myself that I've noticed that has really helped me keep going down a positive path. So that leads me into my next point. So this is my personal belief, and other Christians might agree, some might have different viewpoints, but I'm just sharing my own personal beliefs with you today. So I believe everything in moderation. And if you refer to 1 Corinthians 6:12, I think that's a good example of God also saying everything in moderation. And this is like a translation of the actual verse, like one that actually I could understand. all things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under power of any. So to me, that means God really does want us to enjoy our life. I don't think he created Oreos just for us to be like, dangle them in front of our face. They're like, look at them, don't they look yummy, but you can't have any of them. Like, to me, that's not what he's doing up there. I really don't think that. I think he wants us to enjoy ourselves, but I think he also wants us to take care of our bodies and to be aware of our choices. And it's not just food. It can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be online shopping. Like, there's so many different ways as humans that we can numb ourselves. So I think that's where self-awareness becomes really important. Which leads me into the next point of avoiding overindulgence. You have to find the right balance for you. So whatever works for me might be completely different for somebody else, and that's okay. A Bible verse that kind of portrays this, in my opinion, was Proverbs 25:16. It reminds us that God gives us these amazing gifts, and we can enjoy them without overdoing it. Like the example that I put up there with the honey. Like, you can enjoy the treats, like you can enjoy a glass of wine, but not necessarily the whole bottle, or a margarita, but not necessarily the whole pitcher. You can enjoy these things without overindulging and feeling crappy, basically. And this is just my opinion. Everybody might have a different opinion than me, but this is what makes me feel at peace, living a life of moderation. All right, I'm almost done. So I think all of that being said, it's really important to always recognize your humanity and know that, God knows we're not perfect. He knows we're going to fall short, and that's okay. If you look at Romans 3:23, which is, really one of the most popular Bible verses. I know my daughter had to memorize it in school last year, but it's for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So yeah, every day is a journey. It's not going to be perfect. You just have to take it one step at a time and know that you're on this journey of self-improvement. You're on this journey to strengthen your faith. You're on this journey to get healthy and fit. And that's it. That's all I have. Keep going.